right, people, we are back. It is episode number 4 of season 3. Hit me with that in Spanish.
That's Trace Cuatro. I don't know. It's in that order because this is season 3, and we're so excited to be back with you. I know he be trying to test my Spanish sometimes.
I do.
But, let me tell you something. It's his fault. He speaks Spanish. I don't. He should be teaching me. I teach him Ebonics sometimes. Don't y'all think he should be able to teach me some Spanish?
Man, my Spanish is a little wonky, too, and I majored in Spanish.
No,
man.
you're not, man. Whenever we have like a client, they're like, oh, my God, your Spanish is so good.
I always surprise people, yeah.
Yeah, man. Anywho, we are back. Welcome back. Again, this is episode 4, season 3. We got a lot to deliver. Since the last time we left off, we've been getting so many reviews and, we've been getting invited to certain places to talk about the podcast. And to be honest, I'm confused because
what are you confused about?
I'm confused because it's a delayed gratification, and now it kind of goes back to some of the lessons that we teach, and you don't really understand that. But we want to tell everybody that's listening right now, thank you again for listening in. We're just 2 regular guys, and we're not your gurus or anything like that. We just want to be able to provide some value from some things that we've gathered throughout the years of being in relationships and business and all of the areas of life, right? So if this is your first time, my name is Otis Bird, and this is Mr.
Jeffrey Nadal.
Yes, and what we intend to do today is bring some value. It's been a minute since we got back, man. How you been?
I've been good, man. Enjoying fatherhood.
Yeah? Fatherhood's good?
Fatherhood's great, man.
Lele is 18 months?
18 months.
Wow, y'all should see her. Maybe maybe if you're listening to this and you're an editor, maybe you can help us insert
Just put it right here.
picture right here, boop, like a hologram, like a Tupac one, right?
That hologram wouldn't be moving a lot, man. Let me tell you, she don't stay still.
Oh my gosh, she is so cute. She's so sweet. It's interesting because in a short time she's transitioned from looking like Liz, and now she's like 85% you in the face now.
That's crazy,
ain't it?
It's crazy. Me and Liz were talking about that yesterday. She was like, she looks a lot more like you. I was like, that's good. I'm happy.
I got a question. I think the audience is going to laugh at this. Were you a little jealous when she looked like Liz?
Oh, yeah, 1,000%. I'm like, oh, my gosh, she looks just like her mother.
What you trying to say? What you trying to say? I'm ugly?
Yeah. Everyone, luckily Liz is hot. So, that's why I married her. But, yeah, it did hurt a little bit.
I get it, man. We all go through it. And then, it's just what it is going to be, man. So, tons of ground to cover today. If you're listening to this, here's what we want to accomplish. We want to be able to help you shift some trajectories in your life. We want to help you have some clarity just from some of the things that we went through. So again, if you're listening to this and you think that you're listening to 2 experts, man, you are listening to the wrong podcast. We're just 2 regular guys that's had a lot of extra activities that put us in situations where we can deliver, from the stage we're in or where we currently are. So we got a topic to tackle today, man. How you feeling about this one?
I'm excited about the topic, man, because I know a lot of people will gain some value from it. And if anything that we hear from everyone that gives us the reviews or the honest feedback is that it provided a lot of value. So that's our goal every single time we drop a podcast. And I think this episode will deliver.
Absolutely. So before we give you the title of the conversation today, let me just tell you where it came from. So we have, you know how in our previous conversations, we'll tell you things like proximity is power and, guard the circle that you're around. Well, today has a lot to do with that circle. So what Jeff and I did was that we brainstormed up some things that we found to be most valuable from some of our, millionaire mentors, so to say. So let's introduce this topic, and this topic is 11 lists, okay? 11 items on this list, and the name of today's topic is 11 skills that we've learned from our millionaire mentors. Man, that's a mouthful.
It is a mouthful.
11 skills that we've learned from our millionaire mentors. I messed it up. It's kind of like you saying stage. Yeah. He says spage, by the way.
It's all right. Got the point.
Right, so talk to them about the development of this, and then we'll kind of roll into it.
I think the development personally is when you're kind of putting together a list like this, you're trying to reflect on what you've learned for them so that you can pass down what you've learned to the next group of people. You want to be able to help the person that you once were, obviously, right? Yeah. So there's people that, when we start in the business, now we see ourselves in other people. So now we're talking to them from a different, I guess you could part stage in our career.
Yeah.
And we've learned this because we followed what our mentors told us. And now we're trying to pass that value on to them. So
Absolutely.
that's where this
Absolutely.
list came from.
Yeah, and again, what we put together, again, if you're listening to this and you take note of this, here's what I will guarantee. There won't be a guarantee of you'll automatically just, become a millionaire or something like that. But what it will do is that it'll put you on a path to where you'll have a lot more depth and understanding on some of the things that maybe you have to do maybe in your relationship, or maybe you're in business like us and you're listening to this, or maybe you're just a parent and you want to just learn a couple human skills that will improve where you currently are. So listen in on this one, because I promise you this one, it took some sweat rolling off the beads of our face. We really had to pull from this one. So 11 skills that we've learned from our millionaire mentors. And I'll let you start off with the first point, because this is one that I believe that, you already kind of came into the business with.
Really? Wow. That's flattering. Persuasion. Persuasion is our first skill that we're going to talk about. Why is that a skill that we think is something of value that you should learn, that we've learned from our mentors? I think first and foremost, any entrepreneur, when they get into business, you have to learn how to persuade not so much people, but your damn family.
Yeah.
You have to persuade your family, be like, hey, look, I understand that maybe you may not see the vision, but I see it for our family. You have to learn how to persuade investors, employees, people to follow you. But I think the biggest one at first is family. What do you have to say about that?
Absolutely. When I first got started in business, it's about a decade ago, I had to gain the support from my family because, again, I had to expose my business. I had to let people know what I was doing. And the easiest way to do that was with a circle that was closest to me. So having my family, buy into what I do. And again, if persuasion is a hard word for you to swallow, another word is influence as well, too. So having the ability to influence and to get people to make a decision to do what John C. Maxwell calls buy in, right?
Yeah.
And, along with, having your family, there's other things. So like if you're in a marketing space, if you're in real estate, if you're in, startups, if you're in, any specific business, you're also going to, outside of your family, you're going to need investors. You're going to need people to be able to be persuaded based on your idea and your vision for what you're trying to accomplish. I know that's important to me. What else is important, when you're talking about the persuasion or the influence or whoever you have to include in that remedy of who we need to persuade?
Well, I think at some point in that persuasion, you have to persuade yourself.
Oh, for sure.
So if you haven't persuaded yourself into believing what it is that you're going to do, you're not going to persuade anyone else.
Oh, without a doubt.
You are the first person that, like you said, John C. Maxwell, you have to buy in first. If you're bought in, then persuading others, I'm not going to say becomes easier, but they're going to see you're not full of crap.
Oh, God, dude, can I chime in on that?
Absolutely.
I remember back in, my wife is listening to this right now. She called me crazy a lot because I have these, far-fetched dreams, when we first got started into, entrepreneur role. And I would just say some things that I would only have to believe. So to your credit, yes, you have to persuade yourself. It's very hard. I'm sorry. It's very easy to have sight, right? But then it's much harder to have vision. And vision is seeing something, taking steps without seeing the end, like exactly, right? Yeah. Martin Luther King calls it taking each step without seeing the entire staircase. Yeah. So you have to persuade yourself. And if you have, people that you employ, or people that you may have in an agency or something like that, I believe that you have to persuade them too. You have to, psych yourself out to get out of the mode of wanting to work on a daily basis. You have to get them to buy into the company at large and what's the vision. Like if you're a company that's doing 7 figures, how do you get the company to go from 7 to 8 figures? How do you go from 8 to 9? Like, how do you scale? I believe the foundation has to be persuasion.
Absolutely.
Has to be.
I mean, so let me ask you this. Do you think if someone can't master that persuasion skill, they can't learn to grasp that, do you think there's still hope?
No.
I love it.
No, not at all. Not at all. And I'm sorry to be so candid when I say no that way, but again, you have to get people to buy into you. So if you have a certain product or you're in an industry, there's people who stand on the side of the freeway with roses or
Yeah.
fruit or something.
Yeah.
Like there's a buy into that.
Yeah.
You have to get those people to buy, despite the fact that they can go down the street to the local grocery store.
So true.
You have to get them to buy in, so maybe they make a sign or maybe they do a dance or certain way that they
Man,
smile
the
at
fact
you.
that they accepting Zelle now,
Oh my,
I have a certain person I go buy Liz flowers. 'Cause I buy Liz flowers like every week, every other week. It's the same person. She's in my Zelle already, so I can just send her the money.
oh my God.
So
So she
smart.
persuaded you.
Yeah, she got me.
She did.
She got
So
me.
there was something that she brought, some
Yeah.
sort of influence, right?
Yeah.
So I like persuasion, but you know what I like better than persuasion is number two. I love the fact that, when we're talking about skills that we've inherited from, our mentors, is one that is overlooked. And I don't mean this in this hocus pocus type of way for number two, but the second thing is reading people.
Yeah.
Okay. So like, if you can, when I say like reading people,
Yeah.
I want you to respond just naturally.
Mhm.
When I say you have to learn how to, or you should become better at reading people,
Mhm.
what does that mean to you?
When you tell me about reading people, I think back to a lot of instances where it's really caught me off guard.
Mm.
So I'll give you an explanation to it. When I first got into business, you would always tell me, "Hey, I'd be a little iffy about this," and I'd just be like, "Nah, like no. Hey, man, I've seen this before. Like I've been around the corner a couple of times. I get it. I've seen it." And sure enough, it would happen. And I think that's why, like right now that you bring up Brady, I laugh because I'm like, man, you don't see it in the moment, but now I catch myself telling some of the people that I coach, like, hey, just a heads up, like, let's pump the brakes a little bit because I've seen this already too. So it's just funny how you bring reading people, man. It's a skill that everyone has to master at some point.
Look, man, if you're in any people business, anything transactionally that deals with people, you have to know that at some point somebody's gonna rip you off. They're gonna backstab you. They're gonna lie to you. They're gonna cheat to you. Right? It's your job to be able to pick up on these signals or these cues, so that you can protect yourself and you can preserve, your mentality moving forward. Right? And you have to learn this, especially if you want to be long term. I mean, think about the relationship that
Yeah.
you're in.
Yeah.
Don't you have to learn how to read your wife?
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
And wives, don't you have to know how to read your husband?
Mm.
Don't you know when it's a little hot? Don't you know when it's a little cold? Don't you know when things are just right?
Mhm.
Reading people is more than just a pattern, right? I'll add this too. There is an art to reading people. It's something called NLP, and NLP is short for neural linguistic programming, where you get more into like the FBI type of reading. And I don't, anybody is listening to this, you don't have to go that far. But if you do, there is a book called Never Split the Difference by Chris Voss, Voss. And he talks about how to pick up on these mental cues and how to pick up on certain things. And reading people is not a negative thing.
No,
What it does is that it helps you protect your time. Would you agree with that?
Helps you protect your time, but I think it also allows you to communicate better with the person. Because if I can read the person, I can tell you didn't like that, you did like that. Let's go this route.
Yes.
Right. And naturally, the conversation, the communication is just going to enhance. And you're going to find yourself when you just give you an example. Imagine you're talking to someone, you don't know how to read the person, but you think the conversation is going right, but they think you're full of crap.
Ooh.
That's the worst thing in the world. Worst thing for
Ooh.
both sides because you don't know how to read a person.
Oh my God. You know that happens when people overtalk.
Oh my, all the time.
Yeah.
All the time.
That happens when people overtalk. I just think about, even like right now, thinking about reading a specific client I had, and I just went, yeah, like, this guy's full of it.
Mm.
He's full of it.
Mm.
So respectfully, I, got out of the conversation. But again, this is something that enhances your experience, if you're trying to, level up, so to say, or there's a level of achievement of something that you desire and you're reaching towards that, right? So I really like 1 and 2 so far, man. So the third one that I want to introduce to you, another skill set that we've learned from our mentors, who again combined, I probably say our mentors combined 10 years of being in business and learning people is probably like 100 years or so, right? So I'm not, these guys, they'll go unnamed, just for the sake of their identity. But again, having us learn this and then share this with the audience, man. If I were you, I would stop the recording. I would pause. I would go back. I would examine number 1 and number 2. I'll let you introduce number 3.
Number 3 for us is sharing the wealth.
Huh.
Okay.
Okay.
You kind of went, huh? Why'd you go, huh? What's the first thing that came to your
The
mind when I
first
said
thing you
sharing
want
the
to know
wealth?
what really came to my mind?
What?
Sharing wealth is like people lost the art of you scratch my back, I scratch your back.
I agree. Reciprocation.
Yeah.
It's lost.
They
1,000%
they
lost.
lost it. We're more in a world of what do you say? Take versus give.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I don't like personally. I don't like to take anything. Like I know I'll take it if you have a certain skill set because I want to learn the knowledge. But
Yeah.
I wanna know what you know. You know, I mean, I guess that's the take.
You got to be a valuable asset.
Yeah.
Like you can't be a leech. Is
Yeah.
basically what I'm gonna kind of hearing from you, right? Like, hey man, I'm gonna give you something, or you're gonna give me something. I gotta give you something in return.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like it's a give and take. And I think that's where we really talk about sharing the wealth. I mean, just think about the knowledge, right? We're writing out 11 skills that we've learned from Millionaire mentors. That's wealth. The knowledge that they're giving us
Ooh.
is wealth that they have given us.
Preach, brother.
You get what I'm saying? So it's like it's not just monetary. Wealth is shown in so many different ways, and I think knowledge is one of the biggest things they can give you because from that knowledge, depending on how you use it, you're gonna create your own wealth.
You know what? I wanna really ride a point on this one. Because sharing wealth, I'm gonna give you this concept that I learned from the country India.
Mhm.
India was a undeveloped like country like 50 years ago. And what they did was that they took the heads of the state and they took everybody who had great expertise. So you're talking about engineers, mathematicians, doctors, lawyers. And what they did is that they took them and planted them into Western society. They wanted them to go learn their ways so that they can come back and then they can enrich India.
Mm.
Now, India is one of the largest GDPs, on the face of the earth right now because they understood what it meant to go out, go get the information, and then share it. And then once they started to share it, their country obviously has exploded. It's expanded here within the last 50 years. And I just, I say that point because I want the audience to listen to this right now. Maybe you're not from India. Maybe you are, right? But the concept is you have a tribe and a community that you belong to that you're responsible to bring some wealth with, right? And the reason why most people are where they are is because they don't share the wealth, man. Like my friend group, I try to keep it tight. And I'm not saying that there's rules to being friends with me or vice versa, but I like to share, I like to be able to give, versus take. And taking is fine if you're listening to this. I don't want you to feel demonized, if you're a taker. Just try to, get it in a 50-50 area,
Absolutely. No, I 1,000% agree. And I think that's the best thing about like mentorship because I think in any business, there's an understanding that, hey, like if you're going to take my time, I expect a return. Right.
Absolutely.
And it's one of those things where it's not that, hey, I'm expecting something from you, but like I want a return on my investment. I'm investing my time. I'm sharing my wealth. Like something should come out of this.
Absolutely.
And if you don't think of it that way, like, hey man, like I'm indebted to you now. Like I owe you something. Like let me repay this back in some way, shape, or form. Then you're just kind of leeching at that point.
Absolutely. And the return isn't always monetary.
Absolutely.
It can be, the level of intellectualism that you have, maybe somebody that you can have as a confidant, right? But again, you have to share what you've learned, right? And you have to share it with others, and then you'll enrich who you're around, right? So I love these first 3 so far, man.
Great,
man, stop the tape right now. I mean, I said the tape again. I be dating myself, right? We're like 19 minutes. Stop right here. Go review these first 3 because these are fire, man. So we got to roll through the rest of these.
It's funny, man. We had 19 minutes. We may have to do a part 2 to this bad boy.
I know, man. Like that's what I'm thinking right now. I
think we might leave on a little cliffhanger.
Yeah, we may. Look,
okay.
So just watch.
Just so you know. So number 4. I think, man, number 4 is it's a heavy one.
It is.
Because number 4 may go right over all some of your heads. Number 4 is leverage.
Yeah, 95% of people don't understand that.
Leverage. Why is that such an important skill set? Why is it on our list? Leverage.
Because what these mentors have learned and taught us is that one of the reasons they understand leverage is that the sooner you learn that in order to do anything big, you need a team, is the sooner you'll start scaling at a very fast pace. So when I got into my industry, insurance, investment, financial industry, you know, I'll go about it in the sense of I wanted to do everything and learn everything first. And then I wanted to kind of, you know, have some degree of applying it at some point. And one of the guys who's helped me, he said, "Hey Otis, if you want to go fast, then you need to go by yourself.
Mm.
But if you want to go far, you need leverage and you need people, because 1% of 100 people's efforts is better than 100% of your own efforts."
Yeah.
And a lot of driven, self-motivated guys that have like these high GPAs or do very good in school and had good grades and they're perfectionists, and they generally have the hardest time because, again, going back to how I started, this technical mind, they want to learn to do things on their own. They haven't learned leverage in the sense of you need more, right? It's bottom line. If you're listening to this and you're an investor, you're an entrepreneur, you'll learn that this word scale is probably the number one buzzword maybe in the last like 2 years, right? But
Let me ask you something. Why do you feel like, because I kind of have a general idea, but I think for the audience, they kind of want to dive deeper into your mind. Why do you feel like the people with the higher GPS, those technical minds, the perfectionists, sort of say, why do they struggle so much with leverage? Is it because they don't think someone else can do the job as good as them? What is it?
yes, it is because they do not know how to delegate.
Mm.
How to delegate. I know a whole lot of smart people who make a high income, but the moment that they stop being smart and they take a break and they cool it off is the moment that their life begins to collapse because they forgot there's an art of delegation.
Mm.
You have to learn how to delegate, crowdsource, right? I love to I love my transition of my story, and I'm, humble brag for myself. But the moment I started surrounding myself with people who are smarter than me is when I actually got smarter.
Mm.
It's
Funny how
because
that works.
I learned how to leverage. I learned how to leverage. You think about everything that we do together.
Yeah.
Just in the podcast space, outside of this, what we've been able to do was share skill sets,
Right.
share in the wealth, right? We've been able to develop and grow, but more importantly, what we've been able to identify is we both have skill sets.
Yeah.
So we let each other operate, and that's just leverage.
Yeah.
That's just leveraging that skill set, right? So essentially, what I'm saying to you is when you learn leverage, you'll go from wherever you are and you'll grow your lifestyle because you'll start sharing into the 24 hours of a human. Like we all have 24, but if it's me and you, then there's 48. You have to learn how to leverage that, and you have to learn how to leverage what they've learned and what they've gathered and the data they collected in their life, and then it'll make your life a whole lot easier.
You know what's crazy is that when I first got into business, I didn't understand leverage. You would always tell me, some of our other mentors would always tell me, you got to leverage. You got to leverage. You got to leverage. Like, what the hell does that mean? Like, what are you talking about? You have to leverage. And it wasn't until like, oh, leverage, when I found myself, I wouldn't say working less, but working smarter, not
Yes.
harder.
Yes.
That's when things started to really like go. And I 1,000% agree. Like I said, for 95% of you guys, that went right over your head.
Oh, for sure.
The moment you understand leverage is the moment your life begins to change.
Yeah, for
Man.
sure. Because everybody is on a track based on, again, on what they're good at. That's
Mhm.
what they're gonna, that's what they're gonna try to shine at. And what they don't really realize is that they're just a piece of the puzzle. But when they find other puzzle pieces that fit within the picture, if they leverage and they all come together, then you'll be able to accomplish a whole heck of a lot more than, the 6-figure income that you got. Like, that's great. And I'm not knocking that, right? But the idea is you want to be able to grow that. You have to be able to find like-minded people to share into the wealth, right? Who you have to persuade, how to help. And then you got to get good at reading if they belong to your group. That's key.
That's leverage. That's number 4.
That's key. That's key. So the next one, number 5, is recruiting. That is something that I think most people will never, ever understand.
No, they won't.
Like, when I say recruiting and people don't understand that, and this is a skill set that people, often are overlooked, what does that mean to you?
Recruiting? I mean, I got a little itch when you say recruiting. Because I love recruiting. But, for other people, I feel like when you touch recruiting, it has a very negative connotation to it.
Yeah, but everybody gets recruited.
I understand that. But it's just kind of one of those things, like recruiting is very, it's hard to explain recruiting in the way that, because I'll be honest with you, when I first got into business, I didn't understand it either.
Mm.
I did, like I said, leverage. There was no leverage, which is why recruiting was very difficult. But when I think of recruiting now, I think of recruiting as this one simple way. You're recruiting in all aspects of your life. You're recruiting your friends.
Yep.
You recruited your spouse.
Yep.
You recruited your associations, the type of clients you want, like the type of the people you want to be in business with. You're recruiting in all aspects of your life. It just depends how you want to label it and how you want to identify it.
Agreed 100%. Agreed 100%. Going back to the timing that we have, most people don't understand that there are more hours in a day if you do recruit. When you recruit, you build up, right? You recruit talent, right? The best salespeople, if you're in sales, right? You recruit your friends to go into business with you. There's a story of, what's his name? Facebook, Mark Zuckerberg, where he invited 6 people to his dorm room to start the Facebook at that time. And when he attempted to recruit them, they didn't have the vision. They didn't see what was necessary, and that's okay that they didn't see it. And 3 of those people said no, it's a scam, and now those 3 they no longer around, and then the other 3 are in business and they're all billionaires because they believed in networking and being recruited, right? So if you're listening to this, when you recruit, you just don't recruit to just like you recruit friends, you recruit everything in your life, right? You either recruit or you're being recruited.
Man, 1,000%.
Right? Which one do you think has more equity?
You're the one recruiting.
You have to get really good, and when you recruit in a way, and I'm not just talking about sales, is to sit down and enroll somebody into a vision.
Yeah.
You think about when we sat down and I brought you on board into the business. It was like, hey man, we're going to the top, and let me show you the reason why. If I was like some Joe Blow and I was just half-hearted about what I said, no vision, no anything, no energy, it'd have been pretty hard to do that.
Yeah.
So again, my millionaire mentor, he told me that you got to get great at recruiting. Even mentors, you got to recruit them.
Yeah, it's true.
You have
they
to
don't have to mentor you. You're basically recruiting them like, hey man, I'm worthy of being mentored.
Yes.
So
yes,
yeah.
If you're a friend of mine right now and you're listening to this, we recruited one another.
Yeah.
Like there was a certain standard of person, and I don't want to sound shallow when I say this, but there was a certain standard of person that you did not want, right? And I wasn't that person. I was the person that you wanted, and vice versa. Like if we're friends because we share commonalities, like we protect each other's proximity circle, right? You bring a certain value, I bring a certain value. You didn't go recruit a crackhead as a friend.
Yeah. You mentioned, I don't want to sound shallow, but it's not being shallow. Most people, since they don't recruit the right associations, anyone's let into their circle, it's why their life is where it's at.
Exactly. I could talk all day about recruiting because I am in the recruiting industry, and I love it because, again, I would rather be in a space where I am the recruiter versus the person that's being recruited. And by the way, there's other than God and my family, the next thing that I love the most is recruiting, dude. Like I love recruiting. It's fun too. I get to learn people. But again, these are just some skill sets that we've learned throughout the way. So again, if you're listening to this and you're like, how does that apply to me? Well, find your gift, find your skill set. Maybe you want to start that business, right? Enroll people into your idea. That's recruiting, right? If you're selling a product, how do you sell it? Like you have to recruit them to what you want to do, like the most wealthiest people, actually the wealthiest people are the best recruiters.
1,000%.
1,000%. Okay. So what do we got next, man? My back is getting a little sweaty over here, man. I'm getting a little fired up.
We're at number 6. I want to tell you guys what it is, but I think we're going to leave you guys right there.
Ooh, damn, Jeff, you going to do it to him like that?
I'm going to do it to him like that, man, because these last 5 that we have, whatever, 5, 6, we got 6 more.
Let me say this.
Pretty good.
Let me say this, and I'll cliff them. If this is a word, I'll cliff them on the hang even further, right? The next one has everything to do with energy and how you manage it.
Hmm.
And if you don't master, I believe this is number one, man, you'll wonder why you're struggling, and then you'll stop the tape at 30 minutes and 6 seconds and you'll go, I know exactly what these guys are talking about. So if you want to hear more, we got a part two coming on now. So
I love it.
with that being said, brother,
Unexpected, but I love it.
and
I
with
love
that
this.
being said, man, we got to stop the party right there. Tune in. We're going to drop this episode. Make sure you listen to the next one, because the next ones we saved the best for last. So just make sure, again, I know this is good. I know you're nodding your head. I know you're in the car, you're shaking your head, and you're like, damn, this is good stuff. That's right. That's because we're passing along the knowledge that we've learned. So I'm going to land the plane right there, man.
Land it right there, man. We'll see you guys soon on episode 4, part 2, coming soon, guys.
Adios.